Okay, welcome back, everybody. Had to fix up a couple of things here super quick. All right, we are going to move on to our top 5 of the year.
Yay!
So, like I said earlier in this, sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say this is my favorite part of the show.
Mm-hmm.
I always enjoy seeing what everybody else picks.
Yeah.
So, um, yeah.
Yeah, like I said earlier in the show, normally when we do this, we have, somewhere between 2 and 4 matchup. But this year we have 1. So, yes, this is going to be very interesting indeed.
I thought we were gonna have 2, but ended up not being 2. For a little while there, I thought there was gonna be 2, but it's good.
Because we all know the game of the year is Untitled Goose Game, so.
Of course. The game I haven't played, but it is a game.
Yeah, I haven't played it either, so. All right. Would you like to start, or should I?
Okay. Doesn't matter. I mean, you had me start the whole time. If you want to blaze a new trail, you can go first.
Okay.
It's up to you.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, my number 5 of the year, I think is going to be a surprise to a lot of you who are my normal viewers. This is a game that came out of nowhere this year. It was literally shadow dropped on us.
Or otherwise known as a dark horse, maybe.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. So my number 5 of the year is indeed Apex Legends, of all things. So the story of this game is Respawn came out and they're like, oh yeah, by the way, we have a game coming out tomorrow. And everybody's like, wait, what? We have a game coming out tomorrow? And they're like, boom, here it is. Apex Legends new battle royale. And they had basically said that they took a look at, Fortnite, they took a look at PUBG and the other ones that are out there, and they're like, we're going to basically take the lessons learned and we're going to do something, better. We're going to do something different. And you can see that in the design of what they did. So many of the issues in other battle royales they had solved in this one. If there was an award for the best new mechanic of 2019, this game would win the award with that ping system. And I feel like that system is so huge and it's so good that we're going to see some other games copy this down the road. And you might have told me with this. Did Borderlands 3 end up copying that? Because I heard a rumor they were going to.
Yeah, I think there's pieces of it in there. I don't play with I haven't had a chance to play with other people yet in the game, so I can't tell you for certain. I've solo played most of the time.
Mm-hmm.
At some point I will play because I have a few friends that are playing it or have finished it. So, but that is what I had heard as well, that they had it in there. I just haven't. No, you know what? I have played with my son, and I do believe there's a thing where you can ping a gun or something. I'm not sure if it's as well developed as Apex is.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you can ping lots of things in that game.
Yeah, almost everything.
Yeah. So I don't think that they took it, but even that is still a move forward for, PvE or group. What's the word I'm looking for? Co-op playing games.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
But there was just so many things that this game does better than other battle royals. And, I've played H1Z1. I played Fortnite. I've played PUBG. I think I have over 200 hours in PUBG. And one of the biggest issues with battle royales is communication. And in addition to the ping system, your characters are talking to each other all the time. And it's not something you're doing. It's not like you're hitting a button. It's just like you're running around and your character's like, oh yeah, ring's closing or whatever. Oh yeah, you should do this. You should do that. There's a thing over there. So there's just so much chatter all the time. And it's so refreshing compared to It's like, all right, I'm in PUBG, I'm hiding in a bush, and it's just silent. And you're having to just manually look at everything, and even the gunplay in this and the modding, that was another issue in the other games. So it's like you're playing PUBG and you see a mod on the ground, you're like, all right, is that actually better than the one I have? Should I go in this gun or that gun? Apex just straight up tells you that's better, equip it. If it's not better, then it's like, no, it's not better, don't equip it. And so it's like, just every system that they've done is just better.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
It's more user friendly,
yes.
I would say. They've lowered the bar of entry that these other games kind of put in front of you, so that even people who, like me, generally don't play battle royales. I've never played Fortnite. I've never played PUBG.
Mm-hmm.
I've watched people play them, but I've never played them. I haven't played any other ones, didn't really have any desire. I jumped in and played with him and Jem. Mm-hmm. And the other thing that they did too was make it a team-based battle royale as opposed to solo battle royale, which I never would have played if it was a solo, because I have no desire to play that. It's just not fun for me.
Yep.
So that piece was really nice. And so therefore you also kind of have a pseudo class system there too.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm sorry if I'm taking stuff from you, please.
No, that's fine.
Oh, and just one more thing. It is a respawn game. So they brought their respawn. My youngest plays the multiplayer for Titanfall 2, and that is actually universally considered an incredibly good multiplayer game, PvP multiplayer game, although it's underrated. There should be more people playing it than there are. But they brought some of the lessons they learned from that to Apex 2, and you can see it.
Yep.
So, sorry, please continue.
No, that's kind of a different story for a different time, but the Titanfall 2 campaign is one of the best campaigns to be released in the last 10 years.
Bar none.
But yeah, as far as Apex goes, this game released early in the spring when the Battlefront 2 microtransactions were still fresh in a lot of people's minds. Not only did this game release free to play, but it released with almost nothing on the store, which is like mind-boggling. So that surprised a lot of people. And still, the store they have doesn't have a crazy amount of stuff on it. Eventually, they started to do the season stuff, which everybody does now. And the first season, they kind of messed up, and I guess you could just attribute that to where they didn't know what they were doing. But then the next 2 seasons have been fine, and they've been doing seasonal events. Apex had a big thing at the Game Awards again, where they announced the Christmas season thing that they're doing, the Christmas events, and they had a good Halloween event. And so the game just continues to get better, and they're doing lots of cool stuff. And I don't know if there's too much more I can say on it. It's my favorite battle royale that's ever been released, and all the systems they have in it are fantastic, and the gameplay is fantastic. And I've gotten more wins, because I want to say I've got about 70 hours in this, and I've got more wins in Apex than I did in my 200 hours of PUBG. So I don't know if that's saying something. I've always heard that the gunplay in PUBG is kind of weird, the way that the guns actually like work. So I guess Apex, just because of their experience with Titanfall, they just know how to make a better shooter, I guess. So
Yeah, it would make sense.
Yeah.
So basically, people should get on and try Apex. If I can try it, any of y'all can do it.
And again, it's free. It doesn't cost you nothing. So
that's right. If me and Jem can get on and try it, anybody can.
All right, we'll move on to your number 5.
Oh. Get my list out. Sorry, I had to have my list out here. Okay. All right, I'm ready. You ready for me to say it?
Yeah.
Okay, Control. Now, I would like to just preface this with this one, number 4, and number 3. They literally could be interchanged. They were all basically in a 3-way tie. So I am making some arbitrary decisions of where I'm putting them. So basically this game could have been number 3, could have been number 4, number 5. Control is an awesome game. We've already talked about it some. Again, just to remind you, if you haven't heard or if you missed the beginning, you just got here, whatever. It's a game that's set in a government building. I work in a similar situation, so I enjoyed that about this game.
Wait. So you're unveiling right here on the stream that you, in fact, are like the X-Files?
Oh, that would be
Uh,
awesome. But no, I work in a government building. So not that exciting. But just you walking into it and like the security, all that stuff was very like familiar for me. And then everything else that happened, oh, some of that would be cool. Not all of it, but some of it would be cool if that would happen with my day to day. But do you want me to give like a little like synopsis of what the game's about,
yep.
or do you want me to leave it for you?
No,
um,
whatever you want to say. I'll just kind of
okay, that's
pick
fine.
up.
So basically, you're going into this. It's a organization, like it's a like an X Files, basically, sort of government agency. You're going into the building, it's like it's headquarters of this agency that looks into like paranormal things. And there has been there's been a problem. There's been a breach of some kind, and you're walking in trying to find out who you are and your background, basically. And then the game continues from that point. So everything happens in this building. Well, in some form in this building. Um, and all of the level design and all of that stuff is in this building. But they just did Kidley's already talked about graphics, amazing. I've already talked about the mechanics. And you basically get these abilities that are supernatural. So you get a pull and a push. You get a teleport, right? If I'm remembering correctly, I played this a while ago. So
There's like a
um,
dash, but not a teleport.
okay, well, it's a something where you like can get to from one level to another
Oh, you
where you're
mean
at.
the things on the ground?
Like I
Or
remember being able to jump to a higher level, and I thought it was blink. Didn't you get like a blink ability or something like that?
maybe I
Am I
missed it
thinking? No, I bet not. I'm probably just thinking about something different.
because you can fly.
Um, what?
You can fly.
Yeah, okay, so maybe that's what I'm thinking. Mm. Okay, anyway. You can throw stuff. You get this like telekinesis thing where you pick up things, but that was my absolute favorite thing to do, was to bash things in the head with other things. Um, and the design of that, the sound design in this game is amazing.
Yes.
Um, just all of it is just so good, and it's Remedy, um, which is also a medium studio. They're under Bethesda's umbrella, but um, just what else did Remedy make? If I wasn't on stream, I would have this answer like that, and I can't remember. But I feel like this is like in their they make like weird kind of games in general, Remedy. But this really, to me, is kind of an evolution for the studio. This game was. What else can I say about it? There are boss battles in it. They're off the beaten path. You have to go find them. Some of the best combat in the game. There are those interactions where you have to go and you get these like special things, but you have to go get them. They're not on the main quest line, which they try to encourage you to go off the beaten path to go after those things.
To answer your question here, real quick, these guys made their name for a Max Payne.
Okay, yes.
Max Payne, Alan Wake, Quantum Break.
Yes, Quantum Break. That was the
Yep.
one that I knew specifically. And you can see, actually, to me, this felt a little like Quantum Break, just in its just the feeling, not really the presentation of it, but that kind of like they had a lot of that kind of back and forth. And you have like these flashbacks in the game where you're learning of what happened, and that whole thing where they integrated real-time performance in the game. So you go and you run around and you go watch these video VCR tapes that the head guy of like the research department leaves for you,
Yeah, Casper
and that's
Darling.
how yeah, and he was actually up for one of the like best performance for the Game Awards, right?
Mm-hmm.
You run around and you find those, so that's how you know what happened before you got there is by these, and they're on camera, not animated, like recorded live performances that you're seeing in the game. That's how this kind of felt like Quantum Break to me a little bit, because they did similar things in that game. So they kind of brought little pieces of that there. But that kind of like paranormal, X-File-y, lost kind of, that you kind of think you know what's going on, but you don't really understand what's going on, kind of a feels control. Um, it's an amazing game. If you haven't played it, you should play it. A lot of people's number one this year was Control.
Mm-hmm.
Um, it's just, I'm sure I'm forgetting something, Kidley, but you know, you are welcome to join in as you like.
I'm gonna hold my thoughts.
Sounds good.
All right, so we'll move to our number fours, and I will actually have you go next.
You want me to go next? Okay.
Yep.
My number 4 is Gears 5. I'm not sure I can say enough about this game. I kind of went back and forth about where it needed to be. This is the last game that I've played. And now I have to preface this with saying I have not played the multiplayer yet. So this is campaign only, not multiplayer. I've heard that there are some issues with the multiplayer. I was really looking forward to doing the multiplayer, but I just kind of ran out of time. And I know they put out some, I think, a news thing about how they were committed to the multiplayer and they were going to fix it. I feel like there was some cheating or something going on in the multiplayer. There was some issue in the multiplayer. I cannot remember exactly what it was, but that they had to basically run it and fix some stuff, and there was some angst in the community about it. So I can't really speak to that very well, other than pulling up articles and reading. So this is campaign. I would also like to say I am a Gears noob for playing. My son is a huge Gearhead. He sat through the middle section with me, and was my oldest. He has the limited edition Gears 4 controller for Xbox. Like, that's what I'm talking about. And so he was like giving me the rundown about, oh my God, that means this is blah, blah, and this is so and so. And what? That's a locust symbol and blah, blah, blah. Okay, so anyway. So I was getting the rundown of that. But the cool thing about this game is they tried to design it so that if you've never played a Gears game, they took the war off the title. So it's just Gears 5 instead of Gears of War 5. And they give you previously in Gears.
Oh, really?
Very beginning of the game. Yes.
Does it go back to 1 that far?
I I feel confident of telling you it goes back to 3 at the very least. I feel like they I think they do go back to the very first one, but it is like short. I think they spend more time on 4 and 3, mostly because you see Kate, I think, in 4.
Yeah.
Mostly, and JD in 4. So you get that if you're a noob like me. And the other great thing about this game is the coalition who made the game, as I mentioned earlier, made it a point to make this game as accessible as possible. There was a slider for everything in this game. If you can't aim, there's a slider for that. They have a thing where it snaps into being a headshot if that's what you need. You can slide it and make that difficulty. You can, that's the easiest difficulty, all the way up to it making it more challenging. grabbing quick time events. You can make a single button quick time event. They've got all stuff on it. You can increase the text size on it. Just they and the game director came out and said, if you're not actively designing for a population, you are actively excluding them, and that was the philosophy they brought to this game. For that, it was going on my list for that because I want more games to do this.
Yeah.
So, and then besides that, the campaign story, you guys know I'm a huge narrative fan. The story is huge for me. If you got a bad story, I can't play your game. Like, I struggle to get through it, and you won't make it very far in the game, and with me. The story is great. There was some gotcha moments, some oh my god, are you kidding moments. The game. So for narrative, it's a great story. So if you like stories, you should play it. The game also very much feels like Mass Effect 3.
Oh, really?
Yeah. It's a cover shooter. It has the exact same snap into cover mechanics as Mass Effect 3. Even the thing where you come to the edge of one you cover and you can push A and roll to the next cover. They have the dodge roll just like Mass Effect 3. It feels very much like it's like they took Mass Effect 3 out of the Mass Effect universe and put it in the Gears universe, is what it felt like. Your companions that are with you banter with you and tell jokes. They like tell you what's going on in the environment with the people that you've seen. You get your updates kind of from them. Just imagine when you're like in the Mako and that back and forth, that same thing happens when you're in your vehicle in the game. So if you like Mass Effect 3's combat style and you like the gameplay, the gunplay, this is the game for you. The gun variety is not very much. That would be one of my beefs with it. You pretty much get the same kind of guns the whole game's maybe like 10 different guns, maybe.
Yeah, that's kind of how Mass Effect's always been, though.
Yeah, but
Or not Mass Effect, Gears of War, I mean.
Yeah, so that was new for me, but if you're used to that, yeah, that's they bring back some old ones. Like my son was like, "Oh God, they brought back." I can't remember what the gun is that has the chainsaw on the end, but you get that back. So yeah, I was very surprised and pleasantly surprised about the game. I wanted to play it after I saw the E3 trailers and all that stuff. I got it, and I 110% have enjoyed my time with the game. And again, this game got between an 8.5 to a 9 out of the majority of reviewers, but nobody is talking about Gears 5 now. It came out in what, like August?
Yeah.
So that's another kind of beef with me about these Game of the Year lists that all these folks make. The games that come out towards the beginning of the year always seem to get kind of forgotten when we get to the end of the year. I think God of War was the only one that didn't last year. That came out in like February or something, and it made it to the end on most people's Game of the Year lists. But like, this game came out in August, and nobody really has, not too many places have bad things to say about it, and yet nobody's talking about Gears 5. So great game.
I wonder if it's one of those. I wonder if it's one of those things where it's like, oh, it's just another Gears game, and people are looking for something, I guess, different.
I mean, it could be. It's the 5th installment of the series, right?
Yeah.
Obviously, Gears 5. But each story actually has an amazing. I'm sitting here. I watched after I started playing it. My oldest, gave me a synopsis. Right. He read the books too. There's books too, people like Mass Effect and Halo. There's books on this game and comics. I think at the very least, though, I know there's books. And then I watched one of those, like the history of, like on Leaderboard or IGN something of the series as I was playing it. There is some freaking good writing, at least the stories with the first 4. Like I think everybody just thinks it's a shooter, and it is, but it's like Halo. It's got a freaking good story under it with some well thought out like storylines, and it's not just pumped up dudes in armor running around shooting stuff. There's some heavy stuff in some of those games. So um, and the fact that we had the girl as the Laura Bailey is the voice actress that does Kate, and having her as your main character was nice, to see, and the storyline with her is just interesting. So it's a great game. If you're unsure, again, it's on Game Pass, so it's on Xbox's Game Pass. It's one of the 2 games I think you can play. That's not an older game. That's a new release. So you get Game Pass for $1 and try it. See if you like it. It's on sale now too. I just saw an ad on my Twitter. So go get it. Play it. I swear. If you like Mass Effect 3, you will like Gears 5. It is a great game.
Yeah, keeping with our theme for the show, 2019 could be remembered for Xbox Game Pass.
Yes.
That is a hell of a service. It's
is.
literally unbelievable what you're getting for the money.
Yeah, it is. And if you get the premium one, you can switch between your Xbox and your PC, which I very much enjoy. So.
But I kind of feel like I should do a quick history lesson for this game. But yeah, kind of like what you were saying with the story, Gears 1, 2, and 3 are kind of its own contained story. But Gears 1 is actually credited for reinventing the cover-based shooter. And those first 3 games, actually I think the first 4 were done by Cliff Bleszinski.
Cliffy B.
And technically there are 6 Gears games, because there's actually another one called Gears Judgment, which is after 3, but it's a prequel. But no, the series is just really, really good, and the mechanics and the cover-based shooting and all that is just fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
It's, when it comes to series, I would say that just 1 to 3, just those 3 games are probably one of my favorite series of all time. It's right up there with Mass Effect.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, I mean, I have them. My son play them. Don't you want to play the first 3? Sweet, I had to keep going. I don't have time. I do not have time to play the first 3 before I play this one. I just don't have time. But I would seriously consider playing them if I can squeak out some time. If people would stop releasing non-ending games that I have to keep my extra free time keeps going to those games. But I was pleasantly surprised at the depth of the world and the quality of the narrative game. I mean, Destiny doesn't, all of those games, the shooter type games, or most of them have at least an average, at least a story. You get a few that are standouts, right? Halo's one, Mass Effect is one, but Gears is definitely up, and Titanfall 2 has an excellent, as you said earlier, single player campaign game. But this game, I was expecting at least Destiny vanilla storyline, and it's way better than that. So, if you like story, again, even if you can't shoot, they got a slider for that. Just get up in there and give it a try. There's mechanics on the boss battles too. I totally kept dying on this one, and my youngest came in and went, "Mom, we gotta shoot the ice. You're not shooting the ice," and I didn't even notice there was ice that I could shoot. So it's not a gimme, even with the I can't shoot slider on. Yep. Gears 5. Go get it. Get you some.
All right. We'll move on to my number 4. Trying to think if I actually want to do like a pre-shout out for this one or not, but I want to say this is another game that nobody's really talking about. And
at least not now anyway. They did right before, right?
Right before what? Sorry, you cut out.
I'm sorry. I said they did talk about right before it came out, right? Because everybody was like, "Oh, it's Dragon Age. It's gonna be Dragon Age."
Yeah,
just
yeah.
different. But now, yeah, okay. Please
And
continue.
the previous game that this company made was not very good, so a lot of people were really, really concerned about it. But if there was an award this year for the most BioWare-like game, I would give it to this game. So my number 4 for the year, everybody, is a game that I actually streamed from start to finish. That is going to be Greedfall. If I can find my video for that one. This is what happens when I have like 20 tabs open for all these games that were, let's see.
Well, you can close some of them, right? We're done with the categories.
Yeah. I'm actually kind of doing that now. But, yeah, Greedfall is a game that was made by an indie studio. But sometimes with these indie studios, they'll actually put out something that is much higher quality. We actually saw it a couple years ago with Hellblade. But yeah, this game is straight up like 50% AAA quality and 50% indie quality. But if you're somebody who likes the BioWare style games, your Mass Effects, your Dragon Age, this game basically has all of that. It's like you have a main character, can be male or female, full character customization, you get companions, there's crafting, there's main quests or side quests, there's big areas to explore, kind of like in Inquisition. There's 3 different classes to choose from, and then from there you can do kind of sub stuff with it. Like I know one guy who chose the mage class and then ended up making a melee battle mage. I ended up going like with a swashbuckler type deal. This is sort of a Renaissance style, is what I would call it. I think the company's actually a French company, and so it's kind of on the French side of things.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
But this is another game that has multiple endings, and it's got choice dialogue, and it just has a lot of really interesting options. So
You can
there's
romance
actually
someone in there too, right? If I remember, is there romance situations you can do?
there is, but not that many.
Oh, okay.
So they kind of skimped on that a little bit. The combat is actually really fun as well. I'll be showing that here in a second. This character is actually a mage that I made for this little video preview. But the combat system is an action combat, but like with Dragon Age, at any time you can just pause it and then say, okay, you do this, we're going to throw a post on the ground, whatever. And then you unpause it and it does it.
A lot of people missed that going away in Andromeda.
Mm-hmm.
I never use it, so I was kind of on, people like it, leave it in.
Yep.
But yeah.
Another really cool thing about this game is it has just an absolute ton of dialogue. There's so much dialogue. Everything's voice acted. And they actually created their own language for this game. So there's actually a group of natives on this island you go to, and they straight up just created a language. And I saw a report, or I read an article somewhere about just how hard that is. And then you have to voice act all of it too. So a lot of props to a fairly small studio to be able to do this.
I mean, that is just amazing. I'm not sure people really think about that when they're playing, but we're talking about an indie studio.
Mm-hmm.
A small indie studio, right? Like, was it 20 people or 30 people? Is it?
Yeah, something like that.
Something like that. For them to do all of this stuff, plus it's a fully voiced, right? It's fully voiced, acted.
Yep.
That's just amazing. Just there. Let alone what else they've done.
Yep.
So I give it. This game was on my list of games to play. I just didn't make it there. Didn't make it there.
Yeah, I'd have to double check my Steam, but I want to say this was somewhere in the 40-ish hours, maybe a little bit longer. And I skipped a lot of side quests too. So I'm sure if you wanted to go real crazy with it, you can probably spend 100 hours in the game. But if you're somebody who likes a lot of the Skyrim style mechanics, like lockpicking and all that, it's got all that. And some of that is based on, the professions you pick up. And there's like secret areas where It's like, oh, you have to be, and I forget the exact wording, but it's like, oh, you have to be a chemist to be able to make bombs, to be able to blow open like a rock wall or something like that. So it's like as you're exploring the areas, and the areas are really good. That's one of the AAA elements of this game is the areas are just they're big and they're beautiful, and there's lots of hidden stuff, and it's one of those games where you do a lot of exploration, and it's like, oh, there's a chest in over there, or kind of like what I was saying. It's like, oh, I could jump across this log, but it requires a skill check, almost like D&D or something like that. It's like, oh, sorry, you don't have 3 to finesse or, whatever, or agility or whatever. So you can't climb that mountain. You can't jump over that log. And so it's a game that you could also do multiple playthroughs of, in addition to the multiple endings that I talked about. But no, it's just a really solid, BioWare style RPG experience. I don't know if Doc is still in chat or not, but I know he recently picked it up and's been playing it, and have to check the Steam sale. It might be on sale right now, but it's just a really good game.
It's and that classic kind of RPG single player narrative style game there's not been a ton of those here lately.
Mm-hmm.
It's few enough that people will like name off a game or two over the last, I don't know, 6 years. Mm-hmm. Odyssey last year was close. And that's a shame because it used to be you couldn't shake a stick and not hit this style of game 10 years ago. And now it has swung, the pendulum has swung so far that, we've got a studio that comes out, this one, who goes, yeah, we like Dragon Age Inquisition, but there was some stuff we really missed in that game that wasn't in Origins, so we decided to make a game that basically put that stuff back for it, basically. And that is what the game director said for this game. That's just amazing to me. So I give them props, like hand claps for this game. I'm glad they made it.
Yeah.
Good.
But there we go. That's my number 4. Greedfall, everybody.
Yeah. That's awesome. I'll get there at some point. Did you want to do the next one first? Or
no.
You want to do?
Go ahead.
Me?
Yep.
Okay, speaking of RPG games, we've got 2 that have BioWare elements to it. My number 3 is Outer Worlds. Many of the things that Kidley said about the game style of Greedfall, you could put into Outer Worlds. So I'll give a little synopsis of kind of the background. This game was made by Obsidian. And if you know anything about video games, Obsidian is a classic RPG maker. And they've made many games that people are familiar with. Not the least of which is KOTOR 2. I know there's probably a nice selection of your population that are either familiar with KOTOR 2 or have played it. They actually were recommended or approved by BioWare for making that game. So, so when you put up the studios that are known for making RPG games, it's BioWare, Bethesda, and Obsidian. Like those would be always in your top 5. Also, the gentleman who Boyansky. What? I'm like messing up his name, but one of the game directors, Fallout, right? The first Fallout. Help me out. What's his name again? It's Larry or whatever. Begins with the B. That same person was also with Troika and Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines 1. So kind of 2 of my games that I love in Outer Worlds. So this game is a basically very Fallout-ish RPG in space game. You have companions. I think there's romances. I just did not romance anyone on my playthrough. One of my companions romanced an NPC though, so that was kind of cool. Um, it has Obsidian's humor like they always have in it, and Fallout's humor. Um, and I mean, it's just awesome. The graphics are great. The game writing is great. The story is great. The characters are really funny and interesting, which is, an Obsidian uh, specialty. It's just, and it's an old school. The RPG parts are very reminiscent of school. I've never played old Fallout, but over and over again, I kept saying, "God, this feels like KOTOR. God, this feels like KOTOR." Where you're assigning, perks to, and you're choosing attributes that you're increasing and decreasing. So I went with high influence, high hacking, high security playthrough. So my person either hacked their way into getting through checkpoints or convinced people that they were dumb and to do what I wanted. Like that was my playthrough. Mass Effect 2, there's like a Mass Effect 2.2 in there where if you don't do your parts, then you're gonna have a bad ending kind of thing, before you go on the suicide mission field of Mass Effect 2, you got that kind of stop point. So you have to make sure you do all your things. That's like an old school mechanic. It's in this game. It just over and over again, it felt very much like that. So it's a great game. Really enjoyed it. Again, like I said, 5, 4, and 3 all could move around a little bit into any one of those spots. They were all really great games. I'm so excited to see this game out of Obsidian. They're one of my absolute favorite studios of all time. And now they are not independent anymore. Highly shocked. This is another one of those PR things too. Chris Avallone used to be with this studio. He was their story writer and did Fallout New Vegas. And he was talking smack about them on Twitter about the studio before the game came out. So that was a little something. He was working on Jedi Fallen Order and back about Obsidian. Yeah. But it's an awesome game. If you like old school RPGs, you must play this game. So
yeah, and this is a game that definitely encourages multiple playthroughs. Kind of like what you were talking about with the point system and all that, and being a super old school RPG. Yeah, this is one of those games that has a fairly in-depth character creator, and it's like you're putting points into like intelligence and talking, and I forget how many categories there are. There's like 10, 15 categories. I've actually heard people doing like really funny stuff, like doing low intelligent characters. Yeah. Apparently it's like really, really funny because your character is like dumb and doing stuff like that. But kind of like you, I'm actually playing through this right now, but I designed my character to where I could basically talk my way out of anything, but I still wanted to do like hacking and stuff like that.
Yeah. And I mean, again, just think back if you've played KOTOR, if you've played like old school Fallout, if you played old school, Elder Scrolls, you can't put points into everything. So you have to decide where you're going to put your points, because eventually you won't be able to level up anything, right? So you kind of have to have an idea. So it encourages role playing too, to a point, because you kind of have to decide who are you going to be. With the character creator, you can actually have the Moon Man. They have a little icon, the moon, like a Moon Man head. You can actually have the Moon Man head. I think I can't remember if it comes with the special edition version or if it's for everybody, but I had that as an option, so I did that. But or I didn't do that. I thought about it for a minute, but it was cool to see that. And you talk to your companions. You have companion quests again, just like a BioWare, Bethesda game, and
Mhm.
that you have to go do. Um, so there's that, and like I said, one of your companions actually gets a romance on with an NPC, and the quest line for that is you have to like help help them with their romance. I just thought that was just really cute.
Yeah, I
Um,
think I'm doing that right now, and she's like, "I need soap
yeah,
because
you
I'm an
go help her
engineer and I'm
get some.
dirty."
Yeah. And the thing that just kills me as the voice actress for her is Tiny Tina, y'all, in
Oh,
Borderlands 2. It's Ashley Birch. And she actually was also up for performance. Did she win? I feel like she won maybe at the Game Awards for that. I
Mads
feel like
Mikkelsen won.
oh, did nuh-uh.
Yeah.
Boo. She should have won. Um but yeah, like it's just she does such a good job. The voice acting on all those characters is just so good.
Hmm.
So I was super ecstatic about this. I tweeted about it and was just raving about this game while I was playing it. It's a really good game. If you really love those old school RPGs with lots of chatting, lots of interactions with your companions, side quests that kind of take you off the beaten path that are interesting. Um, Lots of different places. You fly your ship around. You got a lot of snark and a lot of jokes. The whole game is set up where you're. I guess I didn't talk about the background. You get thawed out, and you're in this colony that is owned by corporations. So everybody has like a tagline when you meet of a corporation, and I don't know if you go look at some of the headstones. Um, in the first town that you come to, when you get in there, if you go look at headstones in the cemetery, they'll tell you how many bits they earned
Oh, really?
over their lifetime. And that's kind of what you are. You're you as an individual that lives there, and you have to work off like the amount that it costs for you to go there and your value. It's just that whole thing they play with it the whole time. That kind of idea. It's just funny. So play Outer Worlds.
Yeah. A couple things I'll note here real quick is, um, for those that were asking in chat, on PC, this is an Epic exclusive for a while. So if you want to get it on Steam, it'll be next year at some point. Also, the really funny thing about this game, and this is something that people have been just messing up like all year long, there's two games that came out this year. You have The Outer Worlds and The Outer Wilds, and
Yeah,
both are Game of the Year contenders. So people keep messing them up.
yeah, and they're very different games.
Yeah.
The two of them are very different games.
I mean, they both do involve space, but other than that, yeah, very different games.
Yeah,
So Outer
yeah,
Worlds and Outer Wilds.
yes. I've not played Outer Wilds, but I've heard it is a good game. But I'm talking about Outer Worlds.
All right, let's see, where are we at now? So we're on to my number 3, I think.
Yep.
Okay. Well, my number 3, ladies and gentlemen, is a game that has been a long time coming. We haven't seen one of these in a many a years, and who knows if we'll ever see another one. Actually, I think at this point we're going to see some more. But you
Well,
guys
there's
knew it.
two in production now that we know of, right?
Yes. Yes, that is true. So, my number 3 of the year, you guys knew it was going to be on the list. Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order. So, I don't know if I really need to go over the mess that has happened with EA and these games, but a brief history lesson would be Star Wars 1313 canceled. The Amy Henning game canceled. The game that was after that canceled. And then we have this game, which technically was not supposed to be a Star Wars game. Respawn was actually working on a new IP, as far as we know. It could have been a Titanfall game, but we don't know. They were actually working on a new IP when they were bought out by EA. And, of course, whenever you buy out a company, you take a look at all the stuff that they're working on. And they basically said...
Now, really, this is not how I heard this story, but go on.
Oh, okay.
I heard a different thing that went
different
down.
Version?
Yeah.
Okay. But, yeah, this is the way that I heard it. Was basically... EA had seen that they were working on this new game, but if it's a new IP or whatever, we don't know. And they said, this could be a Star Wars game. You guys want to make it into a Star Wars game? And Vince said yes. And so that's what they did. Now, I've heard that Vince has come back here recently and said that they do want to go back and actually finish that other game, whatever it was. But yeah, you can tell us your story in a second, Alise.
The way I heard, in a second. Okay.
No, go ahead.
Are you sure?
Yeah, fine. Yeah.
No. You do your thing. I can wait.
No, since we're talking about the story stuff anyway, that's fine.
I heard that Respawn was working on, at the point that the whole sale thing was coming down, was working on this game. I don't know if it was Tencent or another company attempted to come in and buy them. And EA exercised their contractual clause that they can jump in and offer a buyout for any studio that was working on a Star Wars game. And so that is how EA ended up buying them instead of this Asian, it was either a Tencent or a South Korean game studio.
I mean, Tencent owns like everything, so.
Correct. So I've got a 50% chance that it was Tencent, but I'd have to pull up the article to tell you exactly what studio for certain it was. That's how I heard that this went down, that they were working on a Star Wars game. EA has an exclusivity clause for Star Wars games. They were affiliated with EA for all the rest of their stuff. And so they exercised their contractual clause and jumped in and bought them instead. So it's interesting. It could be then that my story is the one that was the older one, and maybe there's information come out that makes it untrue in parts, because that's a distinctly different version than what you just said.
Like I'm pretty sure Vince said that, and I'll have to see if I can find that quote.
Yeah, no, I got this story out of either Polygon, PC Gamer, one of those. So it wasn't like Sam Joe Blow with a gaming, whatever. But again, it was right after the deal went down. So is where I heard that at. So we've had some time for more details to come out. So I don't doubt that your version, especially if Vince has come out and said, I will make that game. We were really making it. And I had heard this game was not originally a Star Wars game. I did hear that as well. Okay, anyway, please continue.
But yeah, as far as the game is concerned, I know there's a lot of people out there that really wish this would have been like a Coder 3 or a deep RPG or something along those lines. But instead they went with, a Souls-like with, some very light RPG mechanics and a skill tree and all this and that. And I would say for what we have here, this is, a really good game. It's one of the best Star Wars games ever made. The combat can be a little iffy at times, although they just patched it and I haven't played it enough to really see the changes. But for a Souls-like game, I feel like the combat is pretty good. And doing lightsaber combat is always one of those things where it's really hard to do. Even when you go back to the Jedi Outcast, Jedi Academy type games, the lightsaber combat can always feel a little bit, spongy. It's like you're hitting them with like a pool noodle or, something like that. But I feel like what they did with the combat system in this, it is pretty good and probably the best lightsaber combat that we've ever seen. It is really neat when you mix in the Souls mechanics, and if you time it perfectly, you can pretty much one shot anybody except for like the big boss fights. But going back to like the squishiness thing that they have with lightsaber combat, it's also neat that with like the regular stormtroopers, you can just straight up, one shot them no matter what. But anything with like a vibro blade, vibro sword, or whatever, they can actually try and block you. And that kind of goes into them making the saber combat probably as realistic that we've ever seen. Actually doing like proper blocking and all that, and you have to sort of wear them down in order to get it to work. A little bit earlier, Alise was talking about the visual quality of this game. It looks fantastic. It sounds fantastic. It's really hard to do Star Wars wrong when it comes to sound design and music and all that fun stuff. So I think they pretty much nailed all that. And I'm just trying to think if there's anything else that I want to say about it. And I don't know, what are your thoughts about the game from what you've played so far?
Oh, I mean, like I said before, it's gorgeous. It does sound really good, although I have to say, paying attention to that so much. I think I was more dazzled than listening. Although they absolutely got the lightsaber, and the blaster sound right, which had to be done, otherwise it would have been noticeable. Do you know what I mean? The fact that I don't have anything bad to say about that probably means they did get it right, because I didn't go, that's not a lightsaber. That is not what it sounds like. All of us who've played, who are big Star Wars geeks, knows what a lightsaber is supposed to sound like. So I can't say anything bad about that. So good job. The story so far has been good, although I'm still, like I said, I'm only a third of the way in. I almost wish that they had made it a little bit, and I can't say a lot without spoiling stuff, but because you have to go to all these different places, it kind of broke it up a little bit for me. So, that's just a design choice. My big beef with this game is the whole, just the movement stuff. It is glitchy. Now, again, they just released a patch for, if you're not familiar with the wall running, I had done it in Titanfall 2 when I played that game. So I failed it a few times to begin with, and then once I remembered how to jump up where you needed to hit the button to be able to successfully navigate that, it was fine. But people who haven't ever played could struggle with that if you're not good with that. But it's oh my God, I'm playing on a PS4. So I keep complaining, and other people who are playing on PS4, they're like, yeah, I see what you're saying. People who are playing it on PC don't seem to be having as many complaints as me on this piece. So It could very well be one of those that it's the console is, the coding is different, and so therefore we're having different issues. But I have struggled being able to climb freaking walls and jump from one wall to the other. Wall running failing, being able to grab ledges, like the camera flipping in the middle of trying to line up your jumps on ropes, like bad news. And I think that's one of those, like, for people who aren't familiar with this kind of action games, who aren't used to them, maybe they play Gears type games that doesn't have any jumping and no wall climbing. If you're not used to those things in a game, and now you're trying to play the Star Wars game because you're a Star Wars fan, there could be some frustration there. So I hope in time that they fix some of that kind of, just if you're not in the right position, at least on PS4, you cannot do a thing. And I really like a lot of the level design, where you have to go through these puzzles to get to the next thing to actually get an ability to be able to play the game. That is cool. But it's not cool when you can't get through the thing to get the ability so you can play the game. So, yeah. But it's super cool to be able to play the game. Not too spoily because I think if you've seen some of the trailers, but there's people from the movies in there. Um, so if you wanted to pretend to be a Jedi and play with some people from the movies because you only really watch the movies like me and play the video games and you don't read the books and the comics, this is super cool that you could go and play with, Wookiees and people from the movies and stuff. So,
Yeah, that kind of goes into the subject of when I started this, where I said a lot of people would love to see like an RPG or something like that. It seems like they're in the mindset of any Star Wars game they make now has to be canon. And if that is the way they're going to stick, that is really going to limit what they're going to be able to do. So it's possible that we could never see a Coder 3 or a game with male female selection and stuff like that, because it's like, oh, it's got to be this character because it's this story and it's got to tie in with everything. So I'm really wondering if at some point they will break that and just say, all right, this is a non-canon game, and
I don't know. Disney doesn't seem to like to do that kind of stuff.
mm-hmm.
So I I don't know. I think whatever they make is going to end up being canon because it just makes Disney more money if
Yep.
it is. How many people have disregarded the legend stuff because now it's not canon? How many people in the Star Wars verse got have just like got become livid because their stuff from XYZ book or whatever is now no longer canon and they are just like put out about that. Even the most recent movie, people are mad because it feels like certain things were retconned just from the last movie to this one,
Mm-hmm.
and how much angst there's been about that. I just, you know, Disney likes to control all the various pieces and parts of the IPs they have. I mean, I don't think it precludes them from making an RPG, but I don't think it'll be an RPG that they can pick male or female, or you know what I mean. It'll have to be one. Maybe you get to change how they look. Maybe
Mm-hmm.
that's also fraught with issues. Look at Revan.
Yep.
You could be male or female with Revan, and now canon Revan. So, um, I don't, I don't know. It'd be cool, but I just don't think so. But they could get around that by just making sure they're putting out games at a nice clip that have nice variety. And then I think you could satisfy at least some groups some of the time and be able to keep that to the point where everybody is happy at least at some point in time,
Mm-hmm.
right? You can't make all the people happy all the time, but you can make some of the people happy at least some of the time, and maybe you get enough happy people that people are content. I don't know.
So I guess the next question is, as we said a couple minutes ago, as far as we know, there's currently 2 Star Wars games in the works. One is probably going to be Fallen Order 2, and this other one, I think you know what the studio is. But they've said that this other one is going to be something different. So, what are we thinking on that one?
Are we talking about the motive one?
Yeah.
I don't know. I I don't know if they mean if something different that motive made, or if they're talking about something different than what has been seen. Because I mean, we got a lot of Star Wars classes of games, right? We've got like a PvP, like large scale PvP game out there. We have a PvP game that has a single player campaign, which Motive did out there. We have this one, which is a single player, single story action adventure game.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
So
what class have we not hit in RPG? I don't.
I mean, I'm thinking stuff like, are we going to do an episode 1 pod racer? Are we doing X-Wing versus TIE Fighter? Galactic
I mean,
Battlegrounds 2?
right? There's been some rumors about that they might be working on a new X-Wing fighter game.
Hmm.
I don't know if you've heard those rumors, but I have seen them in the Star Wars universe, that there are rumors that there is a new X-Wing fighter game being either worked on or pre-production, or it's been floated. I don't know. That would be something different that we haven't seen in what, 30 years?
Yeah.
Um, a space pirate game would be pretty cool. We haven't seen that, except, I mean, you got Warframe, but it's not the same. Um, it'd be cool if they could take remnants of that Amy Hennings smuggler, like, you know, Raiders of the Lost Ark, Uncharted, like version. There's a heck of a lot of canon stories in there that have people running around finding some famous Jedi or Sith artifact out in the world. That would be super cool.
I mean, with the success of The Mandalorian, do they resurrect 1313 at this point?
Or even the, what is it called? Shadow of the Empire,
Mm-hmm.
the Nintendo 64 game, which I absolutely loved. That was a bounty hunter. A bounty hunter game would be awesome. I mean, that game is legend, right? Those
Yeah.
people consider that one of the all-time great Star Wars games. Nintendo 64 is a heck of a long time ago, folks. So I don't think they'd be stepping on any toes to pull that dust, that kind of theme out of the bin. So I don't know. It could be any one of those things. It's an interesting proposition. I just hope, I hope, and I'm sure you probably have maybe a similar idea, that I do not want to see them go backwards from this, where they've come here. Star Wars has always been the IP that everybody says you end up disappointed.
Yeah.
You start so well and you end up being disappointed with the single player game, and I really would like to not see them go back. 1313 would be awesome, but the Red Studio went down in flames with Amy Henning.
Mm-hmm.
All those studio folks that were there were picked up by that studio when LucasArts went under, specifically to try and give them jobs, and then that studio went down. So I don't know. I don't know. That'd be awesome, though, wouldn't it?
Yeah. But yeah, for the sequels of this game, I kind of hope they go with the naming scheme of, so this one is Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order, then do Star Wars Jedi Knight Fallen Order, then Star Wars Jedi Master Fallen Order.
That's funny. That would be interesting. I really would like them, though, to flesh out. This would be a really nice vehicle for them to flesh out what happened to the Jedi that, or even not even just Jedi that made it through 66,
mm-hmm.
but for sensitive people, now that there's no longer any to teach them.
Well, the one issue that they'll run into a little bit is Star Wars Rebels does cover some of that stuff.
No, do they? I've never seen Rebels, so I wouldn't know. But
it's a really good little show.
Yeah, because that's what I always sit there and go, what happens to the people who are Force users and they don't have any, or that are Force sensitives, and they don't? Well, all we have is Rey.
Mm-hmm.
There's got to be more than Rey out there. So what happens to those people? Like, what would they do? And I know the whole Kanan and Ezra thingy. I have some understanding of that whole dealy, but no, they're not all of them. So and now that they've retconned basically Luke and his academy, like,
that'd be a cool game.
Wouldn't that be a cool game? Anyway.
Then the game ends and with everything just going to hell.
Well, that's exactly the way it has to be.
All right, we'll go ahead and move on, ladies and gentlemen, from that one. So we have got 4 games left. We've got our game of the year and then our top 2s.
Yeah, I almost feel like you should do the next one
Okay.
because mine is completely different. I mean, like, you can just kind of put the cap on that with that one.
Yeah, I feel like this is going to be kind of short.
It doesn't have to be.
So my number 2, ladies and gentlemen, is a game that it's probably been the most talked about game we've had on this show, I think.
Maybe it should have been higher on my list. It should have, but I don't know. But go on.
But my number 2 game of the year is in fact Control. But just to sort of recap everything we've said on it so far, it's one of the more interesting experiences that I've had this year. And it's kind of the total package too. You know, we've talked about this has been one of the best games with ray tracing, incredible story, great dialogue, voice acting. The combat is really good. And funny enough, I feel like if Fallen Order wouldn't have come out this year, we would have been talking about Control being the best Jedi game that had come out this year.
Absolutely.
Because funny enough, this game reminds me more of like Force Unleashed than anything else. Because I remember in Force Unleashed, you were constantly grabbing and pulling and throwing stuff, and stuff would just like explode into pieces, and that's exactly what this game does. And the other cool thing that I liked about the destruction in this game, or your force powers in this, is obviously, you know, there'd be like a table there, a bench, a chair, and you could grab those, but sometimes that stuff wouldn't be there, so it's just like, oh, there's a wall there. I'm just going to grab a chunk of that wall and then throw it at the dude. And it's like,
oh my God, yes, that's so awesome to pull chunks of the wall out.
Like, we've never seen that in a game before. That's like incredible.
And it doesn't go back, y'all.
Yeah.
I don't know if you remember in the old days, destroy the environment and you'd leave the area and come and it'd be right back to where it was when you did. That doesn't happen in this game. If you break something, it stays broke. Like, I love that. Mm-hmm. It's just the player agency on the game is maintained in the game, and that is an actual developer choice to do that. I love that. Mm-hmm. It really makes it more real to me when you play a game that when I break something, I throw a table or I blow up a piece of the wall and it's gone. Just it's awesome. Yeah. And also this also has that kind of Metrovania feel where you can open sections and have some shortcuts and come back as well.
Yep.
To areas. Okay, sorry. Please. I'll be quiet again.
No, you're fine. But no, kind of going back to what Alise was saying when she was talking about this, and I'm not going to consider this a spoiler, so I'm just going to go ahead and say it. The really cool thing about this game is the fact that everything does take place inside the building. And by the way, I'll say that the building you're in is actually called the Federal Bureau of Control. So it's kind of like an X-Files organization trying to hide things, like spectral things and different dimensions and stuff like that. And the other really cool thing is, as this bureau is hiding all of these things from the general public, you have these things called objects of power. Mm-hmm. And these are things that have been corrupted by like the astral plane or other dimensions and stuff like that. And some of the objects of power are really cool, and that's actually how you get some of your powers in the game. One really funny one, I don't know if you ran into this one or not, but there is a refrigerator, and you have to have somebody looking at the refrigerator 24/7, because if you don't, it's going to kill everybody. So stuff like that.
Uh-huh. And the building itself is essentially an object of power.
Yes.
So it does funny things. Mm-hmm. The building does, and that is part of the game.
But yeah, the main character, something happens to the main character, and she has to seek out the bureau. And there's actually a line in the game where you can only find the barrow if you know about the barrow, kind of thing. But it's like she walks in for the first time, and you can see on the monitors and stuff, it's like lockdown, 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 containment breach, breach, breach. And so basically something has happened to the Bureau of Control, and the for the most part, the game is about trying to figure out what's going on with the breach, and then who you are, and meeting people, and all this stuff. But it's just the visual elements, the sound design. The sound design in particular is really cool, and some of the stuff they do with the I know one thing I've seen a lot of other people talk about. It's like you walk into a new area, and it's like, boom, it does that thing with the big letters and stuff.
Yeah, 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 yeah. It's very, and even the art design game, you walk into this building that from the outside just looks like normal, but everything in the inside is like 1985, 1992. Like
Yes.
everything is old school. The computers are old school, like the big chunky monitors that we had back in the day, and the phone and the TVs you're playing videotapes to rewatch this stuff. Like they made this choice to make this building like you have a time warp with all the technology in the building. And I was always like, what? um and that's really, really interesting. Just very much like Lost, X-Files, you just feel in the game as you're going through it. Just that this over and over and over again. The enemies, the flying dudes, just was the bane of my existence.
Oh yeah.
The flying dudes and the fact that their shirts are like hanging off of them as they're coming after you, just these I used to swear at them and laugh about all that, but
yeah. If I had any complaints about this game, I can only think of one thing, and that would be there's a ton of lore in the game via like these pieces of paper, clipboards or whatever.
mm-hmm.
I wish that when you open those up, it would voice act that, just read it out to you.
Mm-hmm.
That's a very minor complaint. But
like
other
Horizon Zero Dawn did,
yeah,
more so of those, they would read them for you.
mm-hmm.
Yeah, I could see that. There needs to be more of the lore kind of into the game. If you are one of those people that doesn't take the time to read that stuff, you will miss a lot of explanations about what's going on.
Yeah, and a lot of that stuff is explaining. It's like, what is an object of power, and what is a CME, and all this kind of stuff. What is a hiss, and
yeah. If you don't read it, and I know there are a lot like I'm not reading game. I ain't got time for that. You are not. I'm sure those are probably the people who are, I didn't like that game. I didn't understand what's going on. Well, you don't read. And also more interesting, I would pony up with that and add that it's a shame that most of the really interesting boss fights are off the beaten path, that you have to go looking of those side quests. So if you are trying to hurry up and get through from the beginning to the end, which is what I normally do, if you don't go do those side quests, you miss out. I usually do it on the second playthrough. I do side quests because I'm just trying to get to the end. I want to see what happens at the end. You're missing out on some interesting. I mean, the dude that's in the dark and stuff. That one. Whatever. So yeah.
I want to go back to the visual stuff just for a second. There would be the times where, what the heck was the guy's name? The old director guy. Is it Trask? Something like that.
Maybe.
But there'd be the times where he would talk to you, and it would like superimpose over top of the screen and do like a fade shadow thing.
It'd be like the cigarette smoking guy. Almost. You kind of got that. Yeah, go ahead.
And then whenever you had to go to the motel, that was always really cool.
Yeah.
And figure out what the heck was going on, to switch dimensions or whatever.
Yeah, yeah. That was really interesting. It was confusing the first time I did it. I was like, what is going on? Again, um,
You
blah,
have
blah.
to
You're not understanding. We're switching, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, oh. And I thought it was cool that your gun is an object of power.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought that was awesome.
You have to obey the rule of 3.
Right.
So, or ring the bell, or whatever.
And that gun is who decides, the chain of power or whatever. It's just really good. If we're talking about people need to go play, you need to go play the game. I played it on Xbox, by the way, and I'm not sure if it's on Game Pass or not. It might be. I was gifted the game, so.
Oh, wasn't that another controversy here recently where Phil Spencer said it was, but the devs said it wasn't?
It might be.
That was a thing like a week ago.
Yeah. So I don't know if it is on Game Pass. Like, go look. I'm not sure. But again, I think it's on sale. If Gears of War 5 is on sale now, I feel like Control is probably on sale. You should go buy it. It is. It made several Game of the Year ones. The Game Awards Game of the Year. It was on the top 5 or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Made that list too. If this game makes all that, it is 110% worth a play. So.
You see, I'm exploding tables here on stream right now just to show you guys the destructive nature. And they actually just did a free update for this game too, so they're supporting it post-launch pretty good.
I'll have to go check it out. I feel like I almost had to pull that off. My Xbox, the Xbox hard drive is tiny.
Yeah.
So I have had to take a lot of games off. I think I had to take the Gears of War series that we had on there off so I could just download the Gears 5. So it's pretty sad.
Righty then.
All right. So we're in the top 2.
Yep. Top 2.
Kidley has 1 left and I have 2.
Yep.
I think. Okay, so I'm not as good as intros as Kidley, but this game, my number 2, I had only played 1 more. This is on another 5th entry into a series. This one has a bit of controversy associated with it, with the series. It was made by, I think, 1 studio, 1 and 2 and 3, and then they handed it off for 4 to a non-Japanese studio, and then the originating game director, I believe, came back for 5. One of Kidley's favorite studios made 4. I played 4, really liked 4, and they retconned 4 out. The community for this game didn't like how Ninja Theory did 4. Dante is supposed to be a wisecracking dude with white hair, and 4's Dante was neither of those. I liked that Dante, but probably because I had no expectations of what it should be, being that my first game in the series was 4. So if you haven't figured out what it is yet, and my number 2 is Devil May Cry 5. This game is another one of those that came out early in the year. My top 2 actually were early on in the year games. And I loved this game. I played it nonstop the week I got it. My son pre-ordered it. He is another huge Devil May Cry fan. So he pre-ordered this game, and I kind of swiped it from him. Well, sort of. I was playing it on his Pro. So he would play, I would play. He would play, I would play. Our 2 accounts. Whatever. We were both playing at the same time, basically. Again, if I didn't say it, I'll say it again because I can't remember. It's Devil May Cry 5. This game is awesome. It's an action adventure game. It could very well be that some people in here played this game because the series has got a pretty long tail. Um, I I don't even know where to start. The music is great in it. The only beef that I have really is the women are still kind of skimpy dressed in this game, which they have always been kind of skimpy dressed. It's just one of those things, and the jokes are kind of dodgy. I kind of expect that for anything out of certain studios, and I was not disappointed. So, but overall, the combat is amazing. You get to play in 3 different styles. I don't want to spoil anything because kind of there are a lot of pieces of this game that are spoilers, and it was kind of funny when one of the big ones was revealed. Playing along, and my son went, "Oh my god, I can't believe that's who that is! Are you kidding me?" Um, but you get to play as um, 2 brothers, half brothers, right? Dante and what's the other dude's name? Dante V, and then the dude with the arm. You guys know what I'm talking
Is it like
about, but it's the
Neo?
yeah, Neo, I think. And each one of them has a different kind of combat style. And so there's kind of like chapters. You go along, play as one, and then they pick up the story on the other one, and you play along. So you're kind of replaying an area that you saw already once on X character. Now you're playing it on this character, but they're paying attention to different things, and you're in a different section of the game, if that makes sense. Then also with boss battles, you come in the boss battle, and this has kind of a stealth kind of co-op, kind of like Dark Souls, where someone in the community actually can drop in and play with you. That was super cool. Also, this is a button masher game, and you get ranked on your style points of how well you do your button mashing, right? So I got razzed by, again, my children having crappy scores when I would get like a B. And I think if you don't get a high enough score, you don't pass the battle. You have to do it again. I think that never actually happened to me, but I swear one of my kids said that. But I am not good at remembering totally okay, I'm going to hit this one a few times, and then I'm going to hit this one, and let's just see what works. And then whatever pattern I figure out, then I go that. But I enjoy picking people up in the air and then whack a few times. But each one is different. V was my favorite to play because he had pets. And the pets could come pick you up and put you on a different level, or they could go and you leveled up each character. So there was some RPG elements in there. You had world drops with weapons. You leveled up the weapons. It was funny. You're kind of Q person, the girl. You go to a telephone pole, which I believe has been consistent through the series. You called her up, and it didn't matter if you were in the bowels of hell, she would show up in her RV and get you set up. I'm sitting here fighting demons from hell, and she can blast through a wall, no problem. And I'm like, why am I going through all this stuff? If you could just drive in and get me out of here. I just found that funny in the game.
I'm in hell. I need your help. Bring the magic van.
That's exactly what happened. And she would bust through a wall, show up, and she would get you a power up, and you could reload your upgrade your little your demon arm or whatever. Super fun. Again, I really think this game hasn't gotten as much. If you look at the ratings of this game, they're actually pretty high. I think it came out early, like March, February, April. And again, that whole stuff that's later in the year, tension, and when we start talking about awards, Death Stranding at the end, which is a good game, but it was released really late. I think gets a little bit more attention than the games that are at the beginning of the year that were good and everybody thinks is good, but everybody's kind of forgotten. So, I'm not doing it justice, but
I know very little about this particular series. I just know that it's a hack and slash, and then it's got like really good music, and
yep, it does, and it's just fun. The combat is just fun in this game. Complete opposite of, say, like a hack and slash that's like Dark Souls, where the mechanics are so important. You get style points, and that is how you get more XP in the game. Is how well did you do your hack and slash? Um, that's just fun. Um, the corny jokes are fun. They're corny, but they're fun. But the story, amazingly enough, there's so much lore with this game and deep. Again, this is the fifth entry in the series. So if you have four entries before it, like there's a lot of world building and history that has gone on and story that's gone on in this game. You start off with you really don't understand what's going on. V especially, you don't know. Like his codex entry is like he's a mysterious stranger that's here to help you or something like that. And you're supposed to play as him, and you already know Neo and you know Dante because and they do actually a recap at the very beginning of the game. You come in at a battle that's happening at the beginning of the game, that kind of is trying to explain to you what's happened prior to that. And a couple characters from either 3 or 4, they bring into that battle. Um, so they do a little bit of a recap. It's not as well done Gears 5's like previously on the last episode kind of style that they did, but it is one it's you do get a little recap, and the game is actually pretty accessible if you know how to like just mash buttons. You can get into this game. Yes, there's mechanics. The bosses do have mechanics you have to pay attention to, but if we're just talking about you're not aiming you're not worried about headshots. It's you can just melee everything if that's what you want to do. So truly a good game. If you've never played Devil May Cry, this was my first time. Had big fun. I encourage everybody to give it a go. Try the game. It is a game. I think it has at the very least out of 10 average. It might even be more than that, but so it's not just me that's telling you that this is a good game.
Yeah, I was just showing something kind of funny on stream. Some monster threw like a van at him, and he went like through the van, and now he's talking to the monster.
Yeah, it's just it's fun, and like I said, there's that repetition. I don't remember it happening for everything, but it does repeat where you have to split when everybody splits up. Um, you are basically going through the same sections, just different levels. Dante might be going over the top, and then Neo might be going through the bottom, and you can tell where you're at because you recognize where you were by just the by the graphics or what you're seeing. But there are parts where Dante and Neo are fighting the same boss. And so what happens is you will get somebody who's playing that same section that you are that drops into play as the character you're not playing in that boss battle. And you two are playing together and you both get each other's scores count for each other. So if you get an A on your style points, that helps the other person and vice versa. I thought that was super cool. So that's kind of, you get that kind of a similar mechanic in Dark Souls where someone can jump in and either help you or hurt you. And that part, like, I think there's a section in the last Dark Souls game where you could do that. I thought that was cool.
Very nice.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, wasn't there? You kind of talked about it a little bit, but I'm trying to remember. Wasn't there some weird thing with this game where, or I guess this series where it's like the first one or third one or something is considered like that game never happened?
I thought it was 4.
Or 4? Yeah, it could be 4.
That's the Ninja Theory one.
Okay. Yeah.
So the first 3 were made by. Is it a Square? It's a Square game. I feel like. The Square
Could
Enix
be.
game. We'll have to look. So don't flame if I'm picking the wrong studio, but I feel like this is a Square Enix game. If my oldest was here, I would yell for him, but um, it's a PlayStation exclusive, I believe, as well. I feel like I feel pretty good saying that because I played it on PlayStation. I feel like it's a PlayStation exclusive. I'll have to Google that. But
It could be a console exclusive because the footage I'm rolling says Xbox One.
oh, was it on Xbox? Okay. I do not believe it's on PC. I could be
Yeah.
wrong, but I do not believe it's on PC. Um, so it was made by basically the same people, the core one, two, and three, and then Ninja Theory, who made Hellblade, picked up four. Um, and then Dante had dark hair and was really young looking. And wasn't as much of a wisecracker. Dante is a sarcastic dude, kind of a gruff, sarcastic dude. Young, the four, Dante has short black hair, is really tall, and is brooding, sarcastic, then haha, sarcastic. It
Huh.
doesn't have, actually, at one point, he in this demon fight at the beginning of the game ends up with this white wig on his head, and he looks down in the water, a puddle, and goes, and shakes it off. So they deliberately were like, yeah, we're not doing the white Dante. Everybody blew up that is fans of the first three. And then um so they kind of retcon what happened for five and brought back the original game director. And according to him, he was not unhappy with the Ninja Theory version. I loved it. The graphics in that game are amazing. The level design in that game is gorgeous. Um, I don't know why people were so mad, but I guess it's because there wasn't white haired Dante. I don't know, but
Hmm.
I it could be that they did it again in three or whatever from one. That is possible, but I know that there was a heck of a lot of controversy with four because it was just wrong, I guess. So, um, and they went back to white haired Dante for five. So, whatever.
Yeah. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I think we are down to it. The top two game of the years. Alise, I will have you go first.
You and me go first. Okay. Well, you're already at your top two. So I guess so am I, right?
Yeah, it's
Technically.
just our top twos are left. That's it.
Oh, top two. Okay. I thought you meant top twos. I was like, wait a minute. Okay. So we've already heard this game already once on the list in the categories. I did the naughty finger at Kidley about it. Um, as soon as I started playing this game, I put out that it was going to be on my top five on Twitter, and I have never wavered. Um, I think like maybe 2 months ago, I was like, I already have my two already done. Everything that comes after is going to try and displace those two games, and not a one of them did. Um, really great games I've played, they still aren't as good. This game it is an awesome game, and again, it's another one of those came out early. Hardly anybody is talking about it. This game should be getting so much more hype and press and praise than what it did. It got a little when it came out, and then again, it disappeared in the ether because every other game that's been talked about came in after it. To get released in like February or March, early March. It was early in the year. And it's a Plague Tale Innocence is my number one game. This is, if you remember the game, Kidley said he has not played yet.
Mm-hmm.
For shame. Is it no, I think it's on Xbox too, yes? Or is it a PlayStation exclusive? I
I
can't remember.
I want to say it's on. I'll look it up real quick.
I feel like it's on Xbox as well. Or maybe I played it on Xbox. No, I played it on Xbox, I feel like. Because I played it in my living room and I only have my Xbox in my living room. So.
This says it's out for everything.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, it's on Steam.
Okay, cool. So that means everybody can play it. I have been playing this game with my two youngest kids, so an 11-year-old and a 15-year-old. And I specifically wanted to play with those two of my children because older sister, younger brother, about the same ages, actually, give or take a few years for a year here and there, maybe difference. Well, actually, the little boy in the story is a little bit older than my son, but we all sat down and played this. This game is, in effect, a stealth game. I don't know if that's communicated very well, but Amicia, who's the main character, um, is a aristocratic girl who is good with the slingshot, who basically gets wrapped up in this big disaster. So she's an aristocrat. The opening scene is very triggering if you love dogs.
Hmm.
Just warn you. Uh,
I've seen that. Yeah.
yeah. And she kind of is one of those, girls who has to be prim and proper, but really doesn't want to be, right? And her father indulges her and teaches her how to use a slingshot. And then basically, this plague is happening. So it's like a black plague kind of thing mixed in with the Spanish Inquisition, or the Catholic Inquisition, I think is another term that's used. And then at the same time, we have this rat plague that starts at the same time along with it. And that's the only piece that isn't kind of have a historical precedent, if as it were, right? We've had an Inquisition. There are aristocrats in this time, and it's like set in like the 1600, 1500, something like that, somewhere in there in France, in the countryside of France. And you end up being the head of your family, so to speak, and you have to take care of your little brother, Hugo. And all you know how to do is to use a slingshot. So that's why I say this game is effectively a stealth game. There's no guns, there's no there's no bow and arrows. You have a slingshot. That's it. You can upgrade your slingshot, but that's it. So you need to avoid fights as much as you can, and sneak. The strength of this game is its story, and that story is based primarily in Hugo and Amicia. But there are a lot of kind of the game touches a lot of times on what would you do, um, in this disaster, in a world where everything is crap. Walking Dead level of crap. What kind of decisions would you make now that you wouldn't do in normal things? How far would you go to do things that may be morally ambiguous to you? They put you in these positions a lot through the game. Playing with my kids, and we had to do this thing where we had to basically unleash rats in a certain situation that killed some things. And my youngest son got so upset. And Hugo got really upset in the after fact. It was like this echo. My youngest is like, no, we can't do that. I was like, sweetie, this is the only way we can get through this section. And then Hugo got really upset that Amicia did it in the game. And it was just, for me, that I was playing, and my daughter would be like, oh my God, Ian would do that. And then my youngest son would be like, oh, that's Ileana right there. Like, there was just this like, very much a real life writing. Whoever wrote that piece of the game, that interaction between those two siblings, did such a good job because it was so realistic. I just love this game. The graphics are gorgeous, the music is gorgeous, and this is an indie studio, y'all.
Mm-hmm.
Another indie studio that's making a game that,
So a
just beautiful.
question that I don't know if you can answer or not, but why are the Spanish Inquisition or the Knights or whatever? Why are they after the kids?
If I answer this question, it's a bit we're getting into spoiler territory, but
Okay.
Hugo has a sickness that is of interest to this faction of people.
Hmm.
Hugo is their goal. They want to get Hugo. And so it's Amicia's job because her father is dead. This all happens at the beginning of the game. And her mother is dead. And so she is now has to take care of Hugo. And she is an aristocratic girl, and she has all these people after him. And again, there was a plague going on at the same time too. So you've got kind of like a black plague, the Inquisition, and then this rat plague that keeps getting worse. Very much reminded me of Dishonored 2.
Mm.
If you've ever played that game where, the bugs and all that stuff, the rats kind of function in the same way as those bugs in Dishonored 2. So if I say more about that, I'll spoil pieces of the game.
Gotcha.
But that's what it is. And then interspersed in the world is every game seems to have a collectible mechanic in it, right? They put historical stuff in the game for you to collect. So Hugo likes to get flowers, and he'll give anytime there's a new flower in a section that you're in. If you explore enough, Hugo will grab it and give it to Amicia and put it in her hair, and so you can learn about the flowers. And then it's real flowers from real life, or they might have something about the rosary during this time, or books, or this is what doctors would do when you were sick or something like. I loved that. My kids, it was a nice little thing to do while I was playing with this death game with my kids. Yes, I know I'm one of those parents. Anyway, it was nice to have that stuff because we would read it and have a little chit chat about it and then move on. So I liked that they put a little real life into this game that kind of has one foot into the supernatural and one foot into like historical context. So it's a beautiful game. It's not that long. I think it's like 20 hours, maybe. I mean, it's a medium length game, somewhere in there. It is very linear. There are no side quests. There is no open world. It is a linear game. I found that refreshing because, again, every other game of the last 5 years or 10 years, really, since Skyrim, has wanted to make their games bigger and bigger and bigger with varying successes. I really enjoyed having a tight, well-told story that had a good pacing to it, and that I could just immerse myself in the story, and I didn't have to worry about running around looking for crap in the open fields, taking me away from the story that I was immersed in. So there you go. And there's it's replayable, but it's a linear story. So when you play it once, you'll know how it goes. But
yeah,
I like replaying. I watch a movie more than once, so I will replay a game, even if it's a linear.
Yeah, as you were talking, we ran across several scenes where it's like there was a guard with a lamp, and she took out the lamp with a slingshot, and then the guard gets devoured.
Correct.
So
you can attack a situation more than one way, just like Dishonored. If you've played the Dishonored games, there's always more than one way through a situation. They did the exact same thing here in this game. So you could take out the lamp and let the rats get him. You could try and headshot them with the slingshot, and if they don't have the armor on their head and blah, blah, there, and you're not, you know what I mean? Like, there's multiple ways that you could try and get around. You can try and sneak through the area, maybe. It kind of depends, but yeah, it's very Dishonored like in the way that they did the design of that. But ultimately, you can't. Face tanking in this game will get you killed. And if you die, and also they put mechanics in that you have to have. It's kind of like Ellie and Atreus for God of War. You have Hugo with you. You can send Hugo to do things, kind of like Atreus in God of War. There are certain things that you'll see. Also very kind of Lego Star Wars-ish. If you remember, like certain characters, They would the little slots, and you would send like Princess Leia through the thing to open the thing so that you can keep going. They've got things like that in this game too. But if you stray away from Hugo too often, he'll start crying, which then triggers the alerts the people, and warnings will pop. He's getting nervous. You've been gone too long, and you have to go back and get him. So you can't like plant Hugo somewhere and go run around and be like, Laura Croft, and then come back, because there's a timer on him and how long he'll like stay by himself without getting upset. So you have to manage that too. It's just I love kind of some of the decisions that they made in this game for design, that are a little different or new. So there you go. Great
Yeah.
game.
No,
It's
it's a
probably
really
on
neat
sale
game.
too.
Like I said, it's the best game I didn't play. So yeah, it's like 20 something on Steam right now. So it's like 50% off, I think.
Yeah, it was 40 when I bought it.
Yeah.
So that was another thing that I really liked, is that it wasn't a $60 game. And I'm fine with that, because it's not, 100-hour plus replayable game. I was fine with that. So it's not that expensive. $20 is a steal for a gorgeous game like this. And um, yeah, go play it.
She just sent Hugo underneath a thing to go grab some wood.
Yeah. Yeah, and they also, the other, I guess I should say, another little thing that the designers did is, you do not have, you really have to manage your resources appropriately. You will never have enough resources to make all the things you want. So you really have to make decisions about what's important. And you have to kind of plan when you get to an area how you're going to traverse the area. Because like those wood sticks that are in that building, they only last for so long. Just like you light a piece of wood, right, for reels or a match, it's only going to last for so long, and then it's going to go out. The exact same thing goes in this. So if you take the long path through an area that you need that fire to keep the rats away, you go the wrong way and it burns out, you just got eaten. So you have to kind of strategize with what you have and what you see available to you and how you're going to get through XYZ section. Some of them scream out at you. There's these carts that you light the thing on fire and you push through. And when you see those in the area, you're like, oh, okay. But then there are other things that are kind of, you have multiple choices and you don't know which one is best. And you kind of have to strategize and hope for the best. Trial and error. Sometimes you do die when you to figure out that was a bad
choice. Chat's wanting to know, what's the name of this game again?
It is called A Plague Tale and Innocence. I don't know if they were planning on this being like a series and that they're all going to be a Plague Tale, and there's going to be the next one is going to be some not Innocence. I don't know what the colon is for, and then we have the subtitle. I don't know, but
gonna do the game again, but this time you're playing a member of the Inquisition.
Yeah,
see it from their point of view.
Or maybe they're going to make another chapter. The sequel's going to be like, I can't say anymore because it'll be game spoiler.
Somebody go find them kids.
Yeah. Oh, and there are companions. You get companions that have different abilities too, here and there, that come along with you. You'll get a thief later on that can break into chests. So, for you.
Yeah, in the footage we're watching, there's like another kid with him right now.
Mm-hmm. They're all kids, actually. All of your companions end up being like teenagers. You get an alchemist, like an apprentice alchemist that comes with you early on in the game. And each one of these people upgrades some like ability that you have, so that you get fire bombs with him. He makes like fire bombs, and the thief girl, unlocks the harder chests for you if you take her with you. And I think there's like a blacksmith apprentice or something that comes along that can upgrade something, and you get a home base at about halfway through the game. So, but then that changes with the story. So Yeah.
Yeah, as we've been watching this footage, it's basically like, all right, fire, try to get rid of the rats.
Fire, lights. Um, there's certain sections of the ground you can stand on the rats don't go. Um, you can actually like stun them. I think there's a firebomb that you have that stuns them. There's one that you can burn them completely away. There's little puzzles that kind of shuttle them into an area that it frees up an area for you to go into, like, like a dam sort of kind of that you can also drop dead animals to distract them
Hmm.
so that all the rats run there and you can run through. Um, those are the main ones I think I think of that you use. But if you get really addicted to like the firebomb thing that like burns them all up, you run out of them, and then there'll be a section where that's the only option you really had to use,
Hmm.
and now you ain't got none. And what are you gonna do? So, or the same thing. There's like stuff you can throw to distract the NPC like things that aren't the rats, and yeah. Sadly, you can't pickpocket anybody, which I really wish you could. Yeah, and if you get discovered and someone comes running at you, it's dead. Like
Hmm.
you're dead. So there's no like, oh, I'm gonna fight my way out of here.
Well, there you go, ladies and gentlemen. That's Elise's game of the year.
Mm-hmm. Get you some.
Yeah.
I will be interested. Y'all have to watch Kidley when he plays it through. Hopefully, he will play it on stream. But if he doesn't, hopefully, he will tell you all how he likes it.
Yeah, if it's a pretty short game, I might as well just, grab it on the sale here real quick and
I feel like I can't. Mine was broken up a little bit. I think I was playing two games at the same time. I was playing that.
hmm.
I bounced in between, I think, Borderlands 3 and Outer Worlds, I think, towards the second half of the game, with maybe some Devil May Cry in there too. Like I was juggling like three games. So it took a little longer for me to finish it than other games. But I don't believe it's more than 20 hours long if you stick with it. There's no side quests. I don't even think it's 20 hours long, to be honest with you. Um, it's just the game is a very long kind of interactive novel, sort of mini series kind of a thing. There's a time lapse in the middle of the game. Um, yeah, so I think I don't think it's much more than that. It was only like $40 or $50 at release.
Yeah, it's one of those deals where I've been liking to do longer games on the weekends. That way I could do a 7-hour stream or whatever. So something like that, I could knock that out in 3 streams. Or two
Mm-hmm.
or even 2 streams, maybe.
Mm-hmm. And it really does do you better to play it as as close together as you can. I mean, it's a very cohesive linear story. You go away from it, and then you're gonna have to try and remember what happened prior to you playing it. So, doing it you know, consistently together is probably a better experience than my having to chop it up between three other games. But whatever. So Kidley, let's hear yours. I want an intro. I'm very intrigued about how you're gonna do this.
All right. So, my game of the year for 2019, ladies and gentlemen. This is a game that we saw at E3, and it's one of these games where we saw it and we were like, whatever. It's just it's
It's
another one
another
of
one of those
those.
games.
It's another one of those. Who cares? And
Yep.
funny enough, what we thought is pretty much what everybody thought, unless you're a hardcore fan of that series. So the game finally comes out, and it's like, wait a minute, this is actually different. It's not the norm. And I know so many other content creators that I follow basically have the same thoughts that I do about this game. And I never would have played this game, but the fact that they changed up the format on it, it basically made it different and interesting. So this is a game in a series that I've never played before. You know, going into the year, again, I never would have thought I was going to even play this, let alone it be my game of the year. So, ladies and gentlemen, my 2019 game of the year is Fire Emblem Three Houses. This game is basically Harry Potter meets something like Game of Thrones. I would say it's more on the Harry Potter side than the Game of Thrones side. But basically what they did to this game is you can play either as a male or a female in this game, so there is that option. But you are the new instructor who comes into the school, Hogwarts, whatever. And it is. It's funny. And, you know, as the new instructor, they allow you to pick a house. Again, very similar to Harry Potter. And so you are the instructor of the house, and it is your job to teach the kids how to fight. And the kids that you're teaching are basically the noble children of the land. It's like, oh, this is the son of Lord, you know, whoever. This is the daughter of noblemen, you know, whoever. And kind of like in Game of Thrones, you know, the area is split into different regions. You know, it's like you've got, you know, like, I'm trying to think of like examples here and I'm failing, but like Winterfell and stuff like that. And so each of these kids are assigned or are nobles of the different areas, but they come together and they go to the school and that sort of thing.
Is it like Tamriel? You've got Skyrim and you've got Daggerfeld. And
yeah, kind of.
You got Summer, whatever. I'm having issues now remembering, but whatever. Okay, continue. Yeah.
But we all play, you know, these games with companions, you know, the BioWare games or whatever. And so all of the kids are basically your companions, and you can customize what they become because you are their instructor. And so you can literally say, and there's something like 20 different classes in this game. So you can say, okay, that kid, you're going to be a Pegasus rider and you're going to use an axe. That kid, you're going to be a paladin that rides a horse and use a spear. You're going to ride a dragon and you're going to use a bow and arrow. So you can like literally do like any sort of medieval combination that you can think of. And so you run these kids through these classes to train them up in however you want to customize them. And then you're basically just going through the story. This game is about a 60-hour story on a single playthrough, and it's actually designed to be played 3 times. You actually have to play each house individually, and each story is actually different. The main overall story is the same, but what you see from your perspective is actually different. The other cool thing is you can actually recruit other kids from the other houses to join your house. So there's that segment as well. You can actually play this game on super hard mode, and there's a permadeath option so that if your kids die in combat, they're actually dead.
Oh.
But I didn't play it on that option. But you can actually spend a lot of time, you know, working on these kids, you know, getting their grades up or whatever, and then they just die.
Their grades up or whatever.
No, funny enough, that's how the skills work. So you'll say, all right, you're going to be a pikeman, and they start at E+, and then it goes E, D, D+, you know, C, C+, and that's how your ratings work. But no, the game just has a fantastic story. It's if you're somebody who likes the medieval type setting, it has a great medieval type story. There's a lot of plot twists in it, and it's really hard to talk about it without spoiling stuff. This is a Switch exclusive, which again goes back to our earlier conversation about the incredible year that the Switch had.
Mhm.
It is a very anime game as well. So as you're going along, there's times where it'll just fully kick into like a 5-minute anime movie, and stuff like that. Game is fully voice acted, and there is a ton of dialogue, an absolute ton. The game itself is actually split into 3 different sections. So I just talked about, picking your students and teaching them and all that kind of stuff. So that's actually a segment of the game where you're literally sitting in the classroom and you're teaching them things. You've got the monastery. So again, like your Hogwarts is fully rendered in 3D, so you can run around and do whatever. You can plant flowers, you can go fishing. There's like side stuff like that. But then the combat, which you're actually seeing right now, is a turn-based tactical system.
I just had to take a deep breath at that. Okay, keep going.
Yeah.
You don't have a Switch, but you said turn-based.
Yep. So yeah, you can see basically on the screen here that I've got all my students and we've got a bunch of enemies, and so we're kind of fanning out. I'm like taking 2 down the left side, 3 down the right side, all of them down the middle. But, as far as, a game like this or a medieval setting, you go standard classes, right? So you'll have a tank, you'll have DPS, you'll have healers. So it's like I had a warlock, I had a priest, I had, an archer who's a sniper, I had a master swordsman, I had a master assassin. So it's really neat, all the different classes that are in the game and just kind of what you can do with them. So like right there, that's a level up. So he just got a level up, and you can see all the different stats. There's like 10 different stats: strength, dexterity, charisma, all that kind of stuff.
Classic RPG
Yeah.
categories, basically.
But this is just a game that surprised the heck out of me. Like I said, I never thought in a million years that I'd be playing a Fire Emblem game, and this one, they had just changed it so much compared to the other Fire Emblem games. It made it really interesting. But the companion customization, there's just so much you can do with it. It's a lot of fun.
So
I really...
Oh,
Or go ahead.
Go ahead. No, finish. I'll ask you
No,
after you're
I was just
done.
going to say, I really want to do a stream of this game doing one of the other houses.
How long is it, though? Do you have time to do a stream? Like, it sounds like it would be a long...
It's like 60 hours to play through.
60 hours? And who do you think this would be a good game for? Everybody? Clearly, you have to be a Switch owner.
Yep.
So we'll preface that there. So if you have a Switch, then what?
If you're somebody who likes a medieval type setting or a medieval type story, and you're okay with turn-based tactical combat, and you love customizing, then those are sort of the prereqs, I would say. Yeah, the recruiting thing is kind of fun as well because, like I said, you can actually steal students from other classes. So if you actually play as a female, as an example, there's one guy from the Blue Lion House who will just automatically come to your class because you're a female teacher. So
don't the students have some? I swear I've seen some things about them having some personalities.
Oh yes.
Like there's the dialogue or whatever you talk to them. There's some fun parts of that or something like that, right?
Yeah.
You want to talk about that at all?
Yeah. There are some dialogue options. It doesn't go as crazy as a BioWare game, but there's a lot of conversations that'll come up and there'll be like 2 options and stuff like that. I don't necessarily think that those do anything, but I could be wrong. And I think there's the possibility of romances in this as well, but that's something I didn't do.
Okay. Does
you
Kat have any questions? I'm curious.
Yeah.
Do I have any questions for Kid Lee?
But
Stop
you
the
saw
stream.
on the screen there, I had my melee fighter person going up against a heavy armor, and she couldn't do anything because she basically has like these fist weapons going up against somebody in like full plate armor. So she's like, I'm not hurting this guy. Why not?
So now you got to think about the correct person in the correct situation.
Yeah. You use magic on him or. But no, the funny thing, if I actually do stream this game, I want to do like a really funny playthrough. And I want to take like the weakest, most pathetic characters, and I'm gonna be like, your frontline tank. Because there's this one girl, actually, she just actually I shouldn't say that because it's a spoiler, but so there's like this one girl in one of the houses who's like basically just afraid of everything. She's like this little petite little girl. She never wants to come out of her room. She's afraid of everything. And I'm like, yeah, you're frontline tank.
So did I already ask this question? The companions have personalities, right?
Right.
So each one is slightly different. Is there
yeah.
like a story for them as well?
Yeah, each one has their own story.
Do you get okay?
And that kind of goes back to what I was saying about, oh, it's like Felix, who's a kid on the Blue Lion House. He is the noble son of whatever lord. I forget what his name is. And so it's like he's got his whole backstory, that kind of thing. Or Dimitri is actually going to be the future king, and he's actually a student.
This kind of feels like a Pokemon game. The kids are kind of like your Pokemon.
Well,
you're the trainer, kinda, with a story.
Well, Pokemon are really easy to collect, and the kids aren't easy.
Oh,
so
okay.
trying to get them from the other classes is actually really hard.
Oh.
So yeah, it's like when you pick your house, you get the students in that house. There's, I don't know, 5 of them or 8 of them or whatever it is.
Okay.
And funny enough, you can actually recruit the instructors too.
Why would the instructors want to leave their house?
That's a good question that I can't answer.
Okay.
Somebody in chat says it's more like SOTOR with a JRPG. That's a hard comparison to make.
Yeah, you don't really. I mean, you have predetermined companions, and once you get to that, you can't really increase. It's not like you can. Well, I guess you technically could now, depending on how far in the story you go. But base game, you can't recruit, say, Jedi Knights characters on, the smuggler to the smuggler story.
Mm-hmm.
Vice versa. I mean, you theoretically could do that to an extent once you get to KOTOR, but then they stopped letting you do that too. So.
Yep. But there you go, ladies and gentlemen. That is our games of the year. So just to do a very quick little recap. So Alise's top 5 was Plague Tale Innocent, DMC 5, Outer Worlds, Gears 5, Control. Mine was Fire Emblem 3 Houses, Control, Jedi Fallen Order, Greedfall, and Apex Legends.
So how'd you think overall this year about how shook out? I enjoyed the fact that we only had really one game in common, which you are correct. You had mentioned a couple times those. So to me, I think that means that, again, what I had said earlier today is that there's way more games this year that appealed to different groups of people than in the past, that they've gone hardcore for the same group of people and just tried to outmuscle each other, sort of, like the studios and the publishers, which is a good thing.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of games that come out every year, and like I said earlier, normally I'm playing, I don't know, 5, 10 different indie games a year, and when it sort of came to indie games this year, maybe it was just because there were indie games that I had been waiting for. So you had Slay the Spire, and you had They Are Billions. So both of those were big indie games that were in early access for years, and both of those came out this year. But I guess there just weren't a lot of other ones that were on my radar.
Mm-hmm. Um, do you think though the fact that there are more AAA publishers that kind of scooped up or shepherded um, indie games this year, as opposed to them just being their own kind of monster? Do you know what I mean? If you know what I'm getting at there. This year there seemed to be more Xbox published like studio games, or like Plague Tale. That is an indie game.
Mm-hmm.
Greedfall is an indie game, but it's
Yep.
treated kind of like in its release and its marketing like it's a AAA game. Sea of Solitude, same thing.
Yep.
Um, do you think maybe that had some influence on you this year? That, we were talking about games that weren't your traditional, okay, it's a Steam game. Yeah, I heard something on forums about it. Or on Twitter, the Steam forums. Okay, I'm going to go try it versus, okay, here's this Steam game, which actually had a preview at E3 and like, advanced copies that came out to reviewers, but yes, it's still a studio of only 20 people. Like,
Mm-hmm.
like the No Man's Sky kind of publishing, like marketing strategy, as opposed to kind of your traditional indie strategy. You think that had anything to do with it this year?
Yeah, maybe. And kind of like what you said, Microsoft had bought up so many studios, and
Mm-hmm.
Sony had bought a couple, and but I
Mm-hmm.
think the biggest thing for me is it just felt like we didn't have a lot of big names. It's like we
Oh, for
did we
games?
and again, it's like last year. It's like we didn't have a God of War, we didn't have an Assassin's Creed, we didn't have like a big Spider-Man, even though that was a new IP. And again, it's like next year, it's like it just seems like all of these big name games. And this year, it's like we had Star Wars, we had the remake of Resident Evil, and maybe like one or two others, and that's like it.
You had Death
I don't know.
Stranding, which technically Kojima is an indie studio.
Yeah.
Technically. Um,
Actually, speaking
yeah.
speaking about that, I feel like we should talk about Death Stranding real quick.
Okay.
Since somebody mentioned it in chat, they're like, I can't believe that's not on your list. Um, Funny enough, when we make up these lists, the lists do change. So there was one at one point, Death Stranding was on the list, but I haven't beat it yet. I want to say I'm 25-ish hours in, and it seems to me like Death Stranding, it's been getting mixed reviews. It seems like people either like it or they hate it. I don't know what you've seen about that, but
Yeah, that would
um,
be that would be it. I've also heard that the game grows on people as you play it.
mm-hmm,
And so the further in that you go, and the more of the story that unveils for you, you realize what's going on better, and so you get better, if you understand what I'm saying there. Um, but yeah, I haven't played it. I don't know if I'm going to play it or when I'm going to play it.
mm-hmm,
Um, I just that's kind of been my reaction after I got to actually see more of the game. It's been so, not that that's a bad. It's just kind of like, mm. well, I don't know if it's going to be a game that I'm going to enjoy.
mm-hmm.
Just what it's about, what you do, all that kind of stuff. Um yeah, I enjoy mm, well thought out, crafty narratives, but when you get a little too convoluted, then I kind of go, if I don't understand where we're going with this, then I kind of check out a little bit, and I'm concerned that I'm going to check Death Stranding because there's too much convolutedness that I have to wait too far in the game to understand
Yeah,
why I need to care about it. And um, that's not necessarily a bad thing. That is a Kojima like hallmark for him. Um, but yeah, I think that's one of the things it struggles with is people don't really understand. Average people don't understand what they are unless they're interested. But we'll see. You know, time will tell. It may that may change. But yeah, I'll be interested to see what you think at the end. What grade you give it at the end.
Yeah. I mean, so far I've definitely been enjoying it. I would say that there's been some story elements in there that have been like some of the best story elements of the year that I've seen. But there's a lot of people who just don't like the walk around delivering stuff thing. But I also feel like there's a lot of people who don't well, I think there's some people that don't even know about the community aspect of that game. Um, but that's the kind of gameplay that actually doesn't really bother me because it's like I'm going from point A to point B. Oh, I'm fighting some BTs, I'm hiding. Oh, I'm actually on a motorcycle. I'm driving a truck, and so there's like there's different things like that. But yeah, the story for that game is crazy. I think a good crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. So there you go. And just because these are our lists, that doesn't mean that, you should think in your own head and go five. I always love doing that. Do I agree with it? Do I
Yep.
disagree? What would I slide in here instead? And invariably, especially this year, like last year, in previous years, as we've reiterated multiple times today, a lot of times we had, two to three or four of the same games. There might have been one game for all three of us, when Novik was here. That was different, but we would have at least two. And that says that there were just a lot of really obviously great games that were, by far superior than a lot of the other games. This year, there was a lot more parity, I think, on the games that really rose to the top. They rose to the top for various reasons, but I mean, I think all of the games we mentioned today have been well reviewed and have a consensus of 8 or above,
Yep.
7.5 or above. It just, when you get into that level, then you're just about individual taste. What you like to play as a gamer once you get to that. And it's a testament really to, I think, the game community that there's that many games out there, at least an 8 or above. And we didn't have any huge like oxygen sucking AAA games out this year.
Yep.
Next year, however, we are going to have a few of those air sucking games that are coming out.
I don't know what's going to happen next year. It's going to be just
yeah, it'll be interesting to see how next year shakes out because I just we didn't really even have a superhero game this year. We've got the Avengers next year, right?
Yeah, which I'm not impressed by that game at all.
So I've heard that from others. I'm just sad they couldn't get the actors to come in and do the voiceover. Not that I have anything up against the people who are doing it, but it would have been a nice touch to have had, Chris Hemsworth actually being Thor.
Mm-hmm.
And he's not, y'all. The person who's Thor is the same dude that's your master in Jedi Fallen Order. Pro tip, by the way. It's the same dude. So yeah, not necessarily a bad thing.
Yeah,
different.
It's like next year is it going to be the Cyberpunk versus Last of Us 2 versus Halo versus Mario versus whatever else.
I think there's going to be a definite thing that just because there's so much oxygen sucking from such and such and such and such that this other game that's actually really good just doesn't get play. Like I can't see all these games that potentially are going to be really good coming out and someone not suffering the consequences of too much good coming out. Could be that we have a dumpster fire again and one of those games that we expect to be amazing just doesn't end up being amazing. That's also a possibility too. But
I
and then we're not even talking about what MMO type games are coming out next year, or what freaking DLCs are coming out next year for one of these, great games this year. I don't, and there's a lot of wild card games that haven't even announced when they're going to re-release, that could all of a sudden pull an Apex and go, hey, we're here, we're coming out this year, and blah blah blah.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think Cyberpunk 2077, that's going to be the game where that game has been hyped up so much. It might be the game that has received the most hype that I've ever seen. And I don't know if it can live up to it.
Yeah, I have, that's always been a beef of mine. I think that's kind of what happened to Lands 3 this year. That game that game sold really well. I think there's a bunch came out that did sell this year, but did not sell as well as, at least to date, as Borderlands 2 did, nor did it get as much hype play as Borderlands 2. And there's various reasons for that, but I really do think some of it just because of how crowded that looter shooter genre is. The looter shooter genre has been the thing for the last like 3 years.
Yeah.
And I do believe there's a little exhaustion about looter shooters. And to be honest with you, their bosses for this year, the twins just are not as engaging as Handsome Jack. It's, and you see that in games sometimes, right? They make this amazing villain, and then the follow-up villain just is not that guy. And also the lead writer left. It was right, Andrew Burke, I think, or Birch was the lead writer on Borderlands 2, and he came on, wrote, and then I don't think to writing books, or he used to be a game critic or something back in the day. Pro tip: he wrote a really good article. I don't know if it was on Medium or something about it's like to be like a reviewer and then go games, and how much he regrets some of his nastiness that he directed when he was doing that. So he wish he knew what it's a really great game. He talks about being a new development side and different, but that what happened to Borderlands 3 this year could happen to anything. That game was hyped up to the clouds, and it's not a bad game, but it just isn't Borderlands 2. And I don't think they'll ever make a game that's like Borderlands 2. That game just worked.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's just the way it happens. So.
Well, cool. I think we might look at wrapping this up.
Yeah.
Been at this for 5 hours.
Yeah. The concern that we had perhaps didn't need to be there. We did great.
Yeah. Yeah, the show last year was 4 hours. I'm like, I don't know if we're going to make it that far.
Just us two. That's funny.
So I'll have you do some shout outs. So where can people find all of your great stuff at?
Oh, yeah. So I am a co-host on Verification Code Required podcast. We're on wherever you find podcasts. And I think under Verification Code Required, I think on Twitter, all of my whatevers. I'm also the co-host on The Council. We're a Star Wars Little Republic Twitch talk show. And we are the Council SWOTOR, I think, on Twitch, right?
I think so, yeah.
And we're on Twitch. And we're also wherever you can find podcasts. We port it over as a podcast, too. Actually, I believe we're having a show tomorrow. We're on every other week now for the Council. there's been chatting in the background on our Slack. So for that, so as far as I'm aware, we're having a show. It's on Monday nights on Twitch. On Twitter, I'm abrown35. So I usually shout out all of my stuff on there. So that's probably the easiest way to find me if you want a one-stop shop is on Twitter. We do have a Tumblr for the VCR podcast as well. And I think that's maybe it. I think I am not a streamer like Kidley, except for on the council, because I don't have the patience or the free time to be able to put together multiple streams, hours worth of streams. And I admire those of you that can do that.
Cool. Well, thank you once again for doing this show with me. I do appreciate it.
I am always excited to get the invitation, so it is an honor and a privilege.
Speaking of upcoming streams, so you just said that you guys are doing your thing tomorrow night. Did you give a time on that?
I did not. It's 9 p.m. Eastern. I think it's 8 p.m. Central. It's 9 for me because we gather up at 8:30 at my time. So, and it's supposed to be an hour. Sometimes we go over. It's on Twitch, Council SWTOR. It's myself and 3 of my co-hosts. So if you've never seen it before, it's kind of like The View, kind of SWTOR style. We have a good time. Lots of different opinions. Whatever opinion you have of SWTOR, I imagine someone on our show shares a point of view. So I think that's it.
Cool.
And we're every other Monday now.
Well, for me, Jim and I are doing a Diablo 3 playthrough series.
I heard that. I think that's awesome.
That started last weekend, and so that is going to be tonight over on her channel. We are also doing that for New Year's Eve.
Oh.
So.
Is there a drinking game? You guys say a word all the time that people can take a shot?
Well, I think if we did every time a minion died, we'd be dead.
People would be, I think, have alcohol poisoning, maybe.
Other than that, Mox, JT, and I are going to do a Mandalorian series review tomorrow as well.
Oh, that'll be fun.
And other than that, just sort of normal streams. Tomorrow afternoon, I'm going to be streaming starting at 11 a.m., I believe, but I'm not sure what I'm streaming yet. I don't know if I'm starting Borderlands 3 or if we're taking a look at Red Dead 2 PC version. So one of the two, I think. So.
Mm-hmm. Well, not to pimp Borderlands 3 too much, but they just released a DLC.
Yeah.
Might be good.
I'll for those asking in chat, I'll link that here in just a moment. But yeah, once again, Alise, thanks for coming out to this one. And
anytime.
Yeah, I think that'll go ahead and do it, ladies and gentlemen. So thank you all so much for watching. Hope everybody has a fantastic rest of your day or evening wherever you are in the world. And we will see you guys next time. So have a good night. And
good night.
We'll see you then.